In a remote Indonesian village, where the mobile signal only worked if you climbed a mango tree, lived a young man named Hermansia. Not a singer, not a social media sensation, just a simple village boy with wild dreams and a stubborn heart. His home was surrounded by endless rice fields, banana groves, and neighbors who considered gossip a sport. If he wore a new shirt, someone would inevitably ask, "Who's the city girl who bought you that, man?" Even if it was just a discount rack special for 50,000 rupiah. Unlike his friends who spent their time battling over PlayStation controllers, Hermansia was different. He often sat alone at a dusty coffee stall, flipping through cruise ship brochures. Most villagers thought he was either mad or addicted to online gambling. But Hermansia had a vision, a dream bigger than the rusted boundaries of his village. He wanted to see the world, earn in dollars, and maybe, just maybe, find a soulmate in a different continent. His inspiration came from stories his father used to tell. A dock worker for decades, his father often spoke of massive ships, foreign tourists, and the ocean that stretched beyond imagination. Those bedtime tales planted a seed in young Hermansia's heart. Not only did he want to leave the village, but he wanted to go beyond the city terminal, straight to the other side of the world. After finishing high school, Hermansia began chasing his dream. But cruise ship work wasn't as simple as it sounded. He needed English skills, certifications, and money. The only things he had were an old motorcycle that rarely started and an unshakable will. So he began doing odd jobs, construction work by day, cybercafe attendant by night, where people mostly watched dangdut videos or stalked exes on Facebook. Every evening, he locked himself in a tiny room, watching Hollywood movies without subtitles. In the beginning, he thought, "I am fine," meant, "I am on fire." But slowly, he started picking it up. His accent was a bizarre mix of Java and Jack Sparrow, but he didn't care. He was learning. Eventually, he sold his bike, borrowed money from uncles and cousins, and enrolled in a cruise ship hospitality course. The training was brutal: 5 a.m. wake-ups, etiquette drills, and carrying gallons of water across the hall as a simulation for balancing trays. When a nosy aunt asked, "Are you running away with someone's daughter, men?" he could only fake a tired smile. But he endured. Every drop of sweat was an investment. And then came the moment that changed his life, a job offer on a European cruise route. The village erupted with noise. Some were proud. Others scoffed. Washing dishes on a foreign ship? TCH. But Hermansia didn't care. As long as it was halal and honest, it was worth it. His first day aboard the cruise ship was like walking into a dream. Polished floors, glittering chandeliers, elegant passengers, and staff from all over the world. Hermansia felt like an extra in a Marvel movie. But the work? Grueling. Endless shifts, supervisors who barked like drill sergeants, and food that tasted like cardboard dipped in seawater. He missed sambal, fried tempeh, and rice that didn't look like hospital leftovers. Still, he adapted. He learned to smile even when he was too tired to think. He memorized guest preferences, perfected his table manners, and made friends with people from the Philippines, India, Brazil, and beyond. But one interaction stood out: a conversation in broken Russian while washing dishes. That was when Hermansia realized he was no longer the shy village boy who stammered around women. He was evolving. Months passed, and with every port, Hermansia's confidence grew. Then one day, the ship docked in Amsterdam. The name triggered two memories: Dutch colonization and the tulips from a calendar in the grocery shop near his house. But he wasn't there for history or flowers. He just wanted coffee and fresh air. Wrapped in a thin jacket he bought on clearance, and sneakers with flapping soles, Hermansia stepped into the cold Amsterdam air. The city was postcard perfect: bicycles whizzing by, canals reflecting the skyline, and cobblestone streets that whispered stories. And then, fate nudged him toward a small, warm cafe. The smell of fresh toast and espresso lured him inside. Behind the counter stood a woman, tall, graceful, and radiating warmth. Her name was Anelias. Jet black hair, eyes like winter night, and a smile that Hermansia would later say was sweeter than my mom's tea. He fumbled as he ordered, mumbling, "I want good coffee." Anelias laughed gently. "All our coffee is good, but if you want the hottest, I'll make something special." That was the spark. They talked. She asked about his country, his work, his life on the sea. He spoke about rice fields, his mother's fried snacks, and his dream to see the world. She listened like he was telling a fairy tale. When her shift ended, they walked along the canal, tasted Dutch pastries, and watched the sun set behind ancient buildings. Hermansia felt like he was in a dream, a beautiful, freezing, caramel-scented dream. Before parting, they exchanged numbers. Back on the ship, his friends teased him. 2 hours in Amsterdam, and you brought back a week-long smile. They weren't wrong. In the days that followed, Hermansia and Anelias grew closer. They texted, called, laughed at translation fails, and slowly, shyly, fell in love. She admired his honesty. He was drawn to her serenity. Soon, every port became a countdown to her voice. And when his contract ended, Hermansia made a bold choice. He didn't fly back to Indonesia. He flew to the Netherlands, not as a tourist, but as a man ready to propose. Their wedding was simple. Her family had doubts. Who is this boy from a distant village? But when they saw his sincerity, how he respected their daughter, how he treated them with warmth and humility, their doubt melted. Hermansia, the boy who once struggled with "I am fine," was now a husband to a Dutch woman who saw his soul. But the waves hadn't settled. The sea was still calling, and so was fate. After the wedding, Hermansia stayed in the Netherlands with Anelias for a few beautiful months. Life felt surreal. Every morning, he woke up to her gentle voice, breakfasted on bread and cheese, and occasionally sneaked into the kitchen to boil instant noodles, the aroma reminding him of his mother's late-night meals back in the village. He would sometimes step out into the cold Dutch air, look up at the sky, and whisper, "Wow! I made it out." A boy from banana plantations now lived in a land he once saw only on calendar pages. But dreams don't pause. After his short honeymoon, Hermansia packed his bags again. The cruise ship called him back, and so did the salary, which now helped support not just his own household but also the growing dreams of his family back in Indonesia. Anelias supported him, although not without worry. "Just promise me one thing," she said as he kissed her goodbye at the airport. "No drama on this trip. No flirty passengers. No trouble." Hermansia had laughed nervously. "I'm a loyal man, I swear." He believed it when he said it. But fate had other plans. Weeks later, the ship was navigating the glittering waters of the Caribbean. Hermansia had become one of the more reliable staff, managing restaurant logistics. One evening, a commotion broke out in the dining area. A woman was arguing loudly with a waiter over her order, something about not enough chili sauce. Most staff hesitated to intervene. Not Hermansia. He approached calmly, offering his signature crooked smile. "Miss, I have chili sauce in my bag if you'd like. A gift from Indonesia, spicy enough to wake your ancestors." The woman burst out laughing. Her name was Maria, an entertainer on board, Mexican by birth, full of life, full of stories, and with a laugh that could be heard from the next deck. She danced salsa in the crew gym, sang heartbreak songs during karaoke, and had a charm that made even the grumpiest chef smile. They began talking. At first it was innocent, shared meals after shift, casual banter, trading snack packets. Maria loved how Hermansia was unpretentious. He never bragged, never flirted, just spoke from the heart. And Hermansia? He was drawn to Maria's fire, her humor, her boldness, her cooking. One night she made tacos and said, "This is like Lemper, but happier." The problem was obvious. Hermansia was already married. He told Maria everything. Her response surprised him. "I don't want to steal you," she said. "But if you're serious and honest, I'm not afraid to share." That sentence stuck to Hermansia like a thorn and a rose. The conflict tore at him. His heart, once so committed to one woman, now beat strangely when Maria smiled. He confided in his roommate, who had been through 3 breakups and 2 contracts. "Man," the roommate said, slapping his shoulder. "If she accepts polygamy and you can be fair, why not? Just don't lie." After weeks of thinking, praying, crying in the staff washroom, and losing sleep over the decision, Hermancia made a choice. He asked Maria, "Would you marry me, in a simple way, no fancy dress, no big announcements, but full of truth?" She said yes. They held a quiet ceremony in the next port, a coastal town with more palm trees than people. Maria continued working, and Hermancia promised to divide his time and heart with fairness. The big hurdle remained, telling Anelia's. With trembling fingers he dialed her number from the staff hallway. It was early morning in Europe. "Honey," he said, voice dry. "I have news. Please, don't get angry." There was silence on the line. Then, a long breath. Then her voice. "If you believe you can be just, and if you've chosen this path knowing its weight, I won't walk away. But never lie to me again." Hermancia sat down, stunned. He had expected screams, heartbreak, accusations, maybe even a divorce threat. But instead, he got calm strength. And one condition, complete honesty moving forward. Life resumed. But now, Hermancia had 2 time zones, 2 hearts, and twice the emotional bandwidth to manage. He tried his best. Morning calls to the Netherlands. Night walks with Maria. He even created 2 separate playlists, soft jazz for Anelia's, fiery ranchera songs for Maria. But the ocean wasn't done yet. Months later, the cruise ship changed its route and began sailing through Asia. Hermancia, already a seasoned crew member, took it in stride, until one evening, when his back ached badly after carrying cartons. On a fellow crew's suggestion, he visited the spa section. There he met her. Ayumi. From Japan. A soft-spoken spa therapist with quiet eyes and fingers that could erase a week's worth of muscle pain in 10 minutes. Their first session was all business, she barely spoke, and he simply groaned with relief. But after the second session, something shifted. Ayumi began asking questions. "You, from Indonesia?" He nodded. She smiled. "I like batik. And Kang Sul." Hermancia chuckled. "You watch Indonesian comedy?" She blushed. "In college." Good laugh. They grew closer, slowly, cautiously. Ayumi wasn't like Maria, no loud laughter or dramatic flair. She was composed, soft-hearted, and deeply curious. She brought Hermancia homemade miso soup once. He brought her a packet of sambal terasai. They barely understood each other's words, but somehow, their silences were full. Again, Hermancia found himself spiraling. He tried to distance himself, but fate kept pulling them together, shared shifts, accidental bump-ins, late-night talks near the vending machine. He confessed everything. That he had 2 wives. That he wasn't planning anything. That he was afraid. But Ayumi, like Maria before, surprised him. "If you love, all fairly," she said. "I'm not afraid." In Yokohama, while docked for 3 days, Hermancia and Ayumi had a modest, quiet wedding. He called Anelia's and Maria separately. Maria responded with a teasing. "Told you she'd say yes." Anelia's was silent again, but said only, "I trust you. Just don't forget what trust means." Now, Hermancia had 3 wives, each from a different corner of the world. One from Europe. One from Latin America. One from Asia. And the world, still spinning, had one more surprise. By now, Hermancia's life had become something between a global romance novel and a travel documentary. With every voyage, every port, and every wedding, his emotional GPS kept recalculating. He was juggling time zones, calendars, cultures, and hearts. Anelia's in the Netherlands was his calm. Maria in Mexico was his fire. Ayumi in Japan was his serenity. And Hermancia? He was the string that held these distant pearls together, tightly, sometimes painfully. But the sea, like life, has a sense of irony. Just when he thought he had reached the limits of love and loyalty, fate sent one more tide his way. It was during a Middle East voyage. The ship had docked in the bustling port of Dubai, and Hermansia was on break between shifts. Wanting some quiet, he wandered to the ship's prayer room, a small, quiet place few visited. There, seated in the corner with her head bowed in silent reflection, was Amina. She wore a soft beige scarf and a look of unwavering peace. Unlike the other women he had met, there was no flirtation, no introduction, just quiet strength. They didn't speak that day. Hermansia simply nodded, offered salam, and prayed beside her. It wasn't until the next day, during lunch in the staff cafeteria, that he saw her again. "You work in food service?" she asked in crisp English with a Moroccan accent. "I do." "You?" "I'm a passenger." "But I volunteer to help clean. I don't like sitting idle." And so began another unexpected bond. Amina wasn't flashy. She didn't laugh loudly like Maria or offer shy glances like Ayumi. She asked direct questions, spoke with clarity, and carried herself with grace. Hermansia found himself drawn to her simplicity and spiritual grounding. On their third conversation, he decided to be honest. "I'm married," he said. "Actually, I have 3 wives." He braced for the slap, the insult, the storm. Instead, Amina smiled softly. "If you're honest about it, that already makes you different. I don't want to be the first. But maybe I can be the last." That single sentence planted a seed of reflection in Hermansia's heart. He hadn't been searching for love this time. But love, once again, had found him. They talked more. They shared meals, exchanged prayers, and slowly opened up about their lives. Amina spoke of her childhood in Fez, her love for Quranic recitation, and her dream of running a children's school. Hermansia told her about his village, his mother, and the surprising path that had led him from rice fields to cruise ships to multiple marriages. There was no drama this time. No racing heartbeat or nervous confession. Just truth, plain and quiet. And when the ship docked in Muscat 2 weeks later, they were married in a simple nikah ceremony held at a local mosque. Amina made one request: no secrets, no favoritism, and faith must be at the center of everything. When he called his 3 wives to tell them, the reactions varied. Anelia's was quiet. She had expected this. "I hope she brings you peace," she said gently. Maria laughed. "So now I'm not the craziest one anymore?" Ayumi, as usual, said little. "Just a calm. Okay. Be fair." And now, Hermansia, the village boy who once struggled with "I am fine," had become a husband to 4 women, each from a different continent. One from the West, one from Latin America, one from Asia, and now one from North Africa. He often joked with the ship crew. "I've completed the compass. North, south, east, west. My heart has become a global map." But with great love came great chaos. One week, he video-called Anelia's, who was upset about frost ruining her garden. The next week, Maria screamed at him for forgetting her birthday. On Wednesday, he practiced bowing on camera for Yumi, trying not to mess up the Japanese phrases. And by the weekend, Amina would remind him to recite Surah Al-Mulk and not skip Maghrib. His life became a whirlwind of calls, messages, love languages, and cultural translation. Breakfasts were a puzzle. Anelia's wanted toast and fruit. Maria craved chilaquiles. Ayumi prepared miso soup with tofu. Amina fasted on Mondays and Thursdays and insisted he fast with her too, even if he was on duty. Conversations were trickier. Maria wanted romantic texts with emojis. Ayumi preferred simple one-liners and occasional gifts. Anelia's loved deep philosophical discussions. Amina asked him religious questions and corrected his pronunciation in Tajwid. Hermansia kept a color-coded calendar on his phone. Week 1, call Anelia's, discuss gardening and groceries. Week 2, send Maria spicy memes and apologize for being late. Week 3, learn a new Japanese word for Yumi. Week 4, schedule Qur'an recitation with Amina and chat about her school project. Despite the planning, he often mixed things up. One day, he accidentally sent Maria a voice note in Japanese. Another day, he wished Ayumi a happy anniversary meant for Anelias. The worst was when he sent, "I miss your tacos," to Amina. That night, he recorded a tearful apology video, holding a paper that read, "I'm exhausted, but I'm loyal." Among his colleagues, he became a legend. "Bro, you're insane," one said. "We can't even find one girlfriend. You have 4 wives." His roommate called him Mr. United Nations of Marriage. But Hermansia never saw it as a joke. In private, he often cried. Not because he regretted it, but because the emotional weight of being fair, present, and sincere with 4 amazing women sometimes felt impossible. He never chased fame. He even declined a talk show offer after one of his wives posted a viral vlog titled, "My husband has 3 other wives, and I still love him." To the world, it was a curiosity. To Hermansia, it was his life, beautiful, difficult, chaotic, and sacred. And though he stumbled, forgot, cried, and got scolded often, he never stopped trying. Because he believed marriage was not about having more. It was about being more. If anyone had told Hermansia years ago, back when he was carrying bricks under the hot Javanese sun, that he would one day be married to 4 women from 4 different countries, he would have laughed and called it a cruel prank from the universe. But here he was, not in a movie, not in a dream, but in real life. And it was far messier, funnier, and more emotional than anything he'd ever imagined. Managing 4 wives in 4 countries was not a glamorous fantasy. It was a high-stakes juggling act, like walking a tightrope over an emotional volcano. At any given time, at least one woman was either waiting for his attention, confused about his tone, or mildly furious because he mixed up a holiday date. To cope, Hermansia developed a system. A calendar with color codes, digital reminders, a guilt stash of pre-written apology messages, and a rotating call schedule. Week 1 was for Anelias. Their conversations were peaceful and intellectual. She often asked about politics, local gardening tips, or Hermansia's thoughts on economic equality. He sometimes struggled to keep up but admired her calmness and European grace. Week 2 belonged to Maria. Passionate and expressive, Maria never minced her words. She wanted affection, emotional and physical. She'd complain if Hermansia missed her morning message, scold him if he didn't respond with enough emojis, and send fiery voice notes if he got her birthday wrong, which he once did, by 2 hours. Week 3 was for Ayumi. Gentle and minimalistic, Ayumi didn't ask for much. But she noticed everything. If Hermansia's tone felt distracted, she'd quietly ask, "Are you tired of me?" He'd spend hours reassuring her with photos, poetry, and sometimes karaoke in bad Japanese. Week 4 was for Amina. Her expectations were deeply rooted in faith. She didn't want roses or jewelry, she wanted Qur'an study together, consistency in prayers, and genuine conversation. Amina reminded him to stay grounded, even when his heart felt pulled in 100 directions. And still, he often messed up. One Thursday, he accidentally sent, "I miss your scent after rain," to all 4 wives at once. Each one thought it was meant only for her, until Maria and Amina ended up comparing screenshots online. That week, Hermansia almost booked himself into a hospital from sheer panic. He also had financial systems in place. Every paycheck was divided into 4 automatic transfers. Each month, he ordered 4 personalized gifts. One time, he sent Ayumi a Dutch tulip bouquet meant for Anelias, and Anelias received a Spanish flamenco CD addressed to Maria. He tried to laugh about it, but deep down, it hurt. Because he never wanted any of them to feel forgotten. They weren't numbers. They were women with hearts, cultures, stories, and he loved each of them for different reasons. There were sweet moments too. Maria once surprised him with a salsa video while wearing a Javanese sarong. Ayumi drew a batik pattern with the word loyalty in Japanese. Anelias sent him a copy of a Dutch book titled The Art of Being Present, and underlined key chapters. Amina mailed him a Qur'an with all the ayahs about justice and mercy bookmarked in gold. He cried when he received it. Despite the tension, the misunderstandings, the constant time zone math, none of the women left him. They argued, yes. They scolded, yes. But they stayed, because they all saw something in Hermansia that couldn't be explained with logic. He never lied. He never disrespected. And no matter how exhausted he was, he always showed up. Over time, even the wives grew curious about one another. Not to compete, but to understand. They began occasionally asking about each other. "What's Maria like?" Anelias asked once. "She's a storm." Hermansia smiled. "But a warm one." "Are you me?" Maria had asked. "She listens with her soul." "And Amina?" Ayumi asked gently. "She's the rope that pulls me back to Allah when I drift." The real turning point came when Amina proposed something unthinkable. "What if we all met in person? Once. Just once. No pressure. No expectations." Hermansia's heart skipped. "You mean together?" "Yes. We are not enemies. We share the same man. We can share a table." He was terrified. The idea of all 4 wives in the same place felt like inviting 4 planets to orbit one small star, him, without crashing into each other. But he knew it was time. He contacted a cross-cultural marriage consultant based in Istanbul. A professional who specialized in complex families and interfaith unions. Flights were booked. Accommodations arranged. And in the spring of that year, in a quiet rooftop restaurant in Turkey, history was made. One by one they arrived. Anelias, elegant, composed, wrapped in a beige coat. Maria, bold, red lips, walking like she owned the world. Ayumi, shy but curious, carrying a gift bag with matcha treats. Amina, serene in an ivory hijab, holding prayer beads. They greeted one another cautiously. The silence was thick. Hermansia stood in the middle, wiping his palms on his shirt, praying none of them would throw a fork. But then something miraculous happened. Amina spoke first. "I know none of us planned this life. But maybe Allah did." Maria chuckled. "If we're all here, he definitely has a sense of humor." Anelias nodded. "Let's talk. Not as rivals. As women who loved the same man." Ayumi just smiled. That night, over Turkish tea and warm bread, they shared stories. Laughed. Questioned. Teased Hermansia about his mistakes. It wasn't perfect. They didn't suddenly become best friends. But there was peace. As they posed for a photo, 4 women and 1 man in the middle, Hermansia couldn't stop smiling. "This isn't heaven," he whispered to himself. "But it's a glimpse of it." After Turkey, something shifted. That one dinner, awkward, unpredictable, but honest, left a lasting imprint on Hermansia's life. For the first time, his 4 wives had sat under the same sky, at the same table. They didn't become a fairy tale family overnight, but a mutual understanding had formed. They saw one another's eyes, pain, strength, and love, and realized none of them were villains. Hermansia returned to his cruise ship with a heart heavier than ever, not from sorrow, but from the sheer weight of responsibility. Now that all his wives had met, things felt more real, more human, more delicate. This wasn't a fantasy. This was fragile truth. He began restructuring his life. He requested a more flexible work schedule from the cruise company, negotiating longer off-ship periods. His superiors agreed. Hermansia had earned their respect, not just for his work ethic, but also for how he never let his personal life affect his professional standards. With more time on land, he began rotating visits between countries. 3 weeks in the Netherlands, helping Anelias in her garden, discussing literature, and warming up to her father, who still called him the rice field philosopher. Then off to Mexico, where Maria would drag him to noisy street markets, force-feed him spicy food, and make him dance to music he still couldn't follow. But there was love in every motion. Japan followed. Ayumi's house was minimalist and quiet. Their conversations were soft. Sometimes they didn't speak for hours, just existed together, like peace in human form. Finally, Morocco. Amina would be waiting with books, spiritual questions, and her warm, grounding presence. Their evenings were spent watching sunsets from rooftops and reading Qur'an side by side. And then, back to sea. This rhythm became his life. It wasn't smooth. There were always tensions. One missed message could cause a spiral. One forgotten prayer time, a rift. And whenever a wife's emotional need clashed with another scheduled time, Hermansia had to become a diplomat. Sometimes he failed. There were nights when he cried quietly in his cabin bunk. When Ayumi felt neglected. When Maria sent voice notes in tears. When Anelia's grew distant. When Amina questioned his spiritual sincerity. He once told a fellow crew member, "Having 4 wives isn't about pleasure. It's about pressure, and the privilege of trying to love well." Some called him crazy, others called him lucky. Hermansia only smiled. "I'm tired," he'd say, "but I'm loyal." He kept a journal titled, "Tired but Loyal," where he recorded everything, from call schedules to what kind of chocolate each wife liked. He wrote about Maria's laughter, Ayumi's quiet strength, Anelia's thoughtful questions, and Amina's reminders about Jannah. He also wrote about his regrets. Once, during a layover, he fell asleep and missed a scheduled video call with Anelia's. She waited for 2 hours in a cafe, crying quietly as the candles on their anniversary cake melted untouched. Hermansia didn't forgive himself for weeks. Another time, Maria felt she was just the fun one, and not a spiritual equal. He booked a surprise trip to Mexico City, learned a Spanish poem for her, and recited it, nervously, in front of her family. With Ayumi, he tried to learn traditional Japanese cooking. He nearly burned down her kitchen, but she said, "It's the best mistake I've ever tasted." For Amina, he once memorized Surah Ar-Rahman just to recite it as a gift. She cried and said, "Now I know, your heart is still with Allah." He kept learning, failing, and trying again. Eventually, the internet caught up with his life. A video titled, "My husband has 4 wives from 4 countries," posted by Maria went viral. News outlets reached out. Talk shows offered guest appearances. One even pitched a reality show. Hermansia declined them all. "I'm not entertainment," he told the producer. "I'm someone trying not to break hearts." But fame trickled in. Young men messaged him asking, "How do you do it?" Some praised him. Others mocked him. Religious figures debated about him. But Hermansia remained silent. He didn't want to become a symbol. He wanted to remain a servant, of love, of fairness, of God. Eventually, Hermansia made a decision that surprised even himself. He began saving to start a land-based business, a small guest house near his village in Indonesia. He wanted something steady, something that would allow him to leave the ship and be with his wives more often. He also started drawing up long-term plans, shared calendars, scheduled retreats, and a yearly gathering where all 4 wives would meet, not as rivals, but as respected companions. The most unforgettable of those gatherings happened on his 40th birthday. In a quiet beachside villa in Lombok, they all came, Anelia's, Maria, Ayumi, and Amina. They brought different gifts, different prayers, and different types of love. They cooked together, after long arguments about the menu, laughed about his old mistakes, and watched Hermansia cry during the cake cutting. He stood before them, speechless, then said, "I don't deserve this, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it." That night, they prayed in a row behind him. 4 women from 4 worlds, standing side by side, united by love, by patience, and by faith. In his final journal entry, Hermansia wrote, "This life is not for everyone. It's not romantic, it's exhausting. But if you asked me, is it worth it? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because love, when given with justice and sincerity, doesn't divide, it multiplies. And the world feels smaller when your heart has room for more. So if you ever hear about a man who worked on a cruise ship and came back with 4 wives from 4 corners of the world, don't laugh. His name is Hermansia. And he's not a legend. He's just a man who chose to love, fully, honestly, and fearlessly.